You are listening to Co-Create Your Life. In this podcast, we delve deep into the law of attraction, dispel common misconceptions, and give our listeners the tools they need to build a magical, purposeful existence in their everyday lives. Reclaim the creative power you already possess and join us at co-creationcoaching.org/create. That's co-creationcoaching.org/create.
Welcome to Co-Create Your Life. This is episode 15, The Law of Attraction and the Principle of Homeostasis. I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
I'm Justin Williams.
And today we are talking about a new principle that I've been writing about and speaking about, especially in last week's support call. If you want to take a look at that, that'll be in the show notes. Something I'm now calling the principle of homeostasis, but last week I was calling it comfort zone, the comfort zone, and I'll talk about that later. But it's just basically something that if you don't pay attention to can be a really big reason that you aren't getting the manifestations that you're expecting to get. It can really block you from the manifestations that you want to get in your life. So we'll talk about that later, but that is what we are talking about today. So before any of that, I'm going to make some announcements. If you'd like to see the show notes, to read the transcript or leave a comment, you can go to co-creationcoaching.org/create015. And if you would like to ask a question for Co-Create Your Life, you can go to co-creationcoaching.org/ask/create. So again, we're talking about what I'm calling the law of homeostasis. It was, again, kind of came from a discussion we were having last week about, what feels normal to you. I've talked about this a little bit before about, the need for a desire to feel ordinary. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Both of you? So, obviously you do, Christine, because I always talk to you. But
When do you not talk to me?
I don't know. But, talking about a desire needing to feel ordinary, and that's all very true. So, and it's also in the discussion of subconscious structures, which I talked about quite a while ago, and that's a big part of all of this. Basically, the principle of homeostasis is the idea that you always have a comfort zone. You always have a region of some area of life, which I'll clarify more, that you feel comfortable in. And if you exit too much from that comfort zone, then your subconscious mind reacts. And the reason we call it homeostasis is because if you're aware of the term homeostasis in science, especially with biology, your body always wants to return to homeostasis, right? It wants to return to a certain temperature, it wants to return to its default state.
Right.
And the subconscious mind and the brain itself is the same way. It has certain beliefs, it has certain ways of being that when it's within those constructs, which I have called the subconscious structures, it's happy. Even if those structures aren't really serving you that well. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But as long as it's within those constructs, it's happy. It's familiar. It's known. Okay? Immediately once you cross outside the bounds of those constructs, the bounds of that comfort zone, then the mind kicks into this need to return to homeostasis, this need to return to normalcy. And whether that's above or below the comfort zone, it doesn't really matter. And it will do whatever it has to return to that point. Okay? Something you need to realize about the subconscious mind is that it doesn't really care about happiness as such. What the subconscious mind cares about is survival, right? I mean, evolutionarily speaking, it doesn't matter if we're happy. I mean, yes, to some extent, we have those feel-good, chemicals that kick in when we're doing something that's good for us, but it doesn't care so much if we're always happy. It cares if we survive. So if there is a threat, then it's going to run away from that threat, or it's going to fight that threat, fight or flight response, right? If it's doing something that's keeping you alive, it really doesn't care so much how you feel about it. So this is why, people can be in really, really horrible circumstances, but it can be familiar to the subconscious mind, and so it stays there. Right? And it's really hard to ever notice. It's really hard for people in those sorts of circumstances to leave because it's no longer familiar. The subconscious mind will do everything in its power, which is a lot, because it's like 88% of your
88%.
Total awareness,
which is creepy.
It's a lot.
It'll do a lot to keep you where it's familiar, where it feels safe. Now, you might not feel safe, but it does, because it's familiar, it's known. So the subconscious mind does not respond to happiness and things like that. It responds to what's familiar, what's known, what feels safe, what feels normal. This is why people stay in, abusive relationships, right?
Yeah, it's normal to them, right?
It's
they
normal
don't know
to them.
anything else.
They'll say something will happen that'll kick them over the edge and they'll leave for a while. But then the subconscious mind kicks in and says, look what you had at least. Right? And so they'll go back. And they'll go back over and over and over again until, someone either not forces them, but, something happens that they have to leave for their own safety. Even then, sometimes they won't. Or someone literally drags them out of there. But otherwise, they just won't leave sometimes because the subconscious mind says, this is safe. Right? So that's all we know.
I've worked with clients who are like that, doing the healing work that I do, that are used to certain situations. And, you know what I'm saying? And they won't.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They
And
won't
it's hard
leave
for
that
them to
situation.
change it. Right.
Yeah.
And, some of them, I have one that really, really wants to heal and she's healing, and one that's a little bit harder.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's so stuck in her subconscious that it's just hard.
Right. In my own life, I'm thinking back to in college, because this stuff stems a lot of times from self-sabotaging behavior when you sabotage yourself. Right. And in my own life, I've had circumstances where I knew I should be studying. I knew I should be doing the work for class and that kind of stuff.
Especially your last year of college.
Right. Well, at Duquesne, too. And that was before I knew you. At Duquesne University, I just hit this wall. I don't know if it was depression or what it was, but I just couldn't do it. It just felt so threatening to my subconscious that it just wouldn't let me go there. And people don't understand this sometimes, how powerful the subconscious is, because people will say, you just need to buckle down and do the work and and
no, it doesn't work
get
like
with the
that.
program, right? And I'm like, you don't understand mental issues. You can't. It literally feels like you're ramming your head against a brick wall over and over and over again, and you know that you should be doing something, and that just adds to the guilt because you can't do it.
Habits are an example of that, because you could people that smoke and they want to quit, and they've tried and they know they should quit, but they just can't do it because that's why.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I've met clients over the years like that too. They were in situations where they really should be able to change it, and they just don't.
Right. Yeah. And because the subconscious mind feels safe, in that situation, it just won't change. So, it's like, this is why you have bad habits, because like Christine said, you have a situation where you should do something different, but that option just doesn't feel safe to you. And this is why, you have these commercials about showing smokers with lung cancer and with those throat, what's it with them, where they can barely speak, you know what I mean?
A trach.
This horrible,
they have a trach.
Right, this horrible raspy voice. They think that's going to help. It might help some, but I can promise it doesn't help a lot of people, because most people, it's not that they don't quit because they don't know the risks. I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's on, they have the warnings on every pack of cigarettes.
And
they
you
have
learn
the commercials.
it in school and from a young age.
School, right. It's everywhere. People don't smoke because they don't realize the risks. People smoke because their subconscious mind is programmed to smoke.
Also, I know some of us with disabilities who don't have jobs and have gone years without a job.
Yeah.
It actually feels safer to just not have one. It's actually they'll sabotage getting
Well, I'm dealing with this now because, I'm to that point where I can get off of not can yet, but I'm close to the point where we should be able to get off of SSI soon. And I'll tell you, it's terrifying because it's that safety net, right? It's that safety net where it's like, and I know sighted people don't have this, so you might not be able to understand this, but it's like, if stuff goes wrong, you have that safety net. It'll get you. It'll save you, right?
Yeah.
If you fall. Relying on just yourself, that's scary. So that's something we're dealing with, especially me, because I work with the money. That's one of my major goals is getting off of SSI. And, it's like, that's a big thing. Just psychologically speaking, it's a big thing. It's like, what's life like without having SSI? I'm sure you can relate to that, Justin.
Well, I used to not have it for 6+ years when I was working, or almost 7. So I really didn't. I know what it's like without it. I'd rather not have it,
right?
I'd
rather not have it too.
But
subconsciously,
my goal is to get off of it. But I'm not stressed out over it. I'm just going to work my way off of it. And since I've experienced being off of it before, it's okay. But then you can. I see what you mean because it's like I can just hang out here at a certain level, be comfortable, and know that I will always have at least this much coming in, and it's like this backbone. You can just do your thing, but.
It's like, and I wouldn't say that's a temptation because I do want to get off of it very much so, but the subconscious on the other hand.
It used to be a temptation. It used to be.
The subconscious is saying, what if things don't work out, So that's a big thing. And for blind people and for any kind of person with a disability who receives some kind of government assistance and, you're working to get off of it and things like that, but it's scary. I'm sure the same is for people with unemployment or welfare, things like that. It's scary to try to change that situation. Now, Justin, you can access that vibration because you've been there. Mm-hmm. For me, I got it from day one pretty much. Even before I was 18, my mother got it for me. And then once I turned 18, I started getting it. And so I don't know that feeling offhand. I can imagine it, which helps, but when you've experienced it, it's a lot easier to kind of go back to that point and say, okay, I know what that's like, right? Mm-hmm. So
I was 18 when I got it.
Yeah, well, that's however everyone is. If you did you get it as a child?
No. Well, if I did, I didn't know about it.
I did.
My mom helped me apply when I was 18.
Oh, okay. It just automatically switched over to me when I was 18, I think. But so that's hard. The subconscious mind is all about comfort. So, even if it's something you really want, it won't do it if it feels unsafe about that option. That's one thing you really need to realize. And that's something, this stuff is so nuanced because as I keep saying, I'm sorry, beat a dead horse, but the law of attraction, just feeling good. No, it's not feeling good. Now that helps with communicating to your subconscious. That's part of the process. It's not feeling good. It's feeling safe. I wish I could put that on repeat for about 2 hours and let that be the whole podcast.
I know.
It's not.
And like people with PTSD, that's why they have it, because they don't feel safe anymore.
It's not about feeling good. It's about feeling safe. It's about feeling familiar. It's about being in your comfort zone. Now, so that is your homeostasis. That is your point of homeostasis. That point when you feel most comfortable. If you want to make more money and you're currently making, let's say, $1,500 a month, that's your point of homeostasis. Try making, let's say one day you get a windfall and you suddenly have, $2,000 a month. Your subconscious whether you know it or not, is uncomfortable. Then you go out and you buy all this frivolous stuff, and you're right back where you started. Where did all that money go? Where, you win, let's say a minor lottery, then you get a few $1,000s, and pretty soon it's gone. You don't do anything substantive with it. It's just gone. Or on the other end, if 1 month you make under what you're supposed to make, let's say you make $1,200 instead of $1,500, your subconscious is kicking into gear to return back to homeostasis. It's trying to figure out how to make up that difference because it's not comfortable there. Okay? So it works on both ends. If you make too much, it'll reduce it. If you make too little, it'll raise it up. That's how it works. That's its homeostasis. You have this margin of safety, so to speak. Okay, this margin of error, you could say. Only so many percentage points on either side of what you're currently making. Okay, so 1,500, let's say 1,300 to 1,700, you're feeling pretty good. All right, make too much under or over that, and your subconscious mind is kicking into gear, trying to return you back to your homeostasis point. Right? That's how this works. For relationships, if you're single, I don't care how much you say you want a relationship, being single is your point of homeostasis.
Of course.
That's your comfort zone. It's scary. Let me tell you, Christine will attest to this. It's scary to get into a relationship.
Yes, it is.
It's hard work. I don't mean to scare off people, but it's hard work. You have to merge two people together who have totally different living habits, totally different ways of living and different ways of communicating. And
do you mean moving in is hard work or just the relationship?
Well, even the relationship. I mean, each stage of it is progressively.
Yes, progressively.
You're mixing together more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah, you are.
If you see each other once a week, you can go pretty safely for a while. My mother used to. My mother's like this. She's such an independent woman. She used to say, "I just want a weekend boyfriend." I was like, I don't know if it quite works like that,
Well, it could work like that. But
it could look like that, but she'd get into these relationships, and the guy would want, commitment, and he would want her to come up all the time and want to come over all the time. She'd feel smothered, and then she'd end the relationship, and then pretty soon she'd want another relationship. It's like she'd say, "I just want a weekend boyfriend." So it's hard. If you see each other once a week, it's pretty easy. You don't really have to do too much. But once it gets more than that, it's like, okay, now we have to deal with each other. Not just
compromising.
Yeah.
With each other.
Not just when, we're feeling romantic or we go out to dinner on dates and things like that, but we have to deal with each other as real people. That's hard.
And there are some days where your partner or your husband or your spouse will drive you up a wall.
Yes.
And you just want to strangle them. Figuratively. But you know what I mean.
Right. So this is your homeostasis point. If you're single, that's your homeostasis point. That is what feels normal to you. Right? And it's hard to shift that. If you get a relationship, you're going to want to go back to your previous habits, any person who's in a relationship, they'll start to try to live differently to please the other person. It won't last. Eventually, they'll go back to who they are. They'll go back to their previous habits.
That happened.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't live differently much. Just enough to compromise. Because it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No.
You're gonna fall right back to normal.
So, this comfort zone works with relationships, with anything. If you're trying to lose weight, you have a certain way of eating, you have a certain way of living, you have a, certain way of doing things, a certain lifestyle. Try to change that too fast or really at all, and your subconscious mind is going to fight against you, right? Your body wants to stay where it is. It's programmed to do so because it works. You're alive. Because you're alive, that means it works. You've survived.
Right. Subconscious or unconscious? Which one?
Well, both. That's a distinction I make in the Art of Reality Creation.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that.
Yeah, the unconscious is really the one that has to do with survival, and the subconscious is more the emotional stuff.
Safety.
So yeah, it's the unconscious.
Yeah, I got you.
Right. So I've discussed that difference a little bit in the blog, but it's mostly something you'll learn for everyone else if you join the Art of Reality Creation course.
I just was making sure. But you're right. It's going to be, it wants to be safe. And it'll even do it for manifestations. Like if you have a manifestation where you want to do something like, I don't know, just anything that's, actually your lower goals. If you try to take a goal that immediately might be better, but doesn't work for the long haul as well, your subconscious will actually not want to do it. Because it'll go, okay, if we get, if we work a second job, we're not going to be able to work 2 jobs and go to school. If you still want to get that master's degree, and it's not just mental. It's like you get this funny feeling, and you're like, okay,
right.
this isn't really going to. Or if I try to force it, it's going to be, people force it doesn't work that well usually. So
right.
Like it'll even align. You can use it as a sweet spot holder for higher goals. It's actually pretty neat if you pick up on it.
Right. So that is how the subconscious is. Again, just repeat this over and over again. It's not about feeling good. It's about feeling safe.
That's right.
Feeling safe. That is the trick. Right.
That's right.
That brings me to my next point. Now, what did I say last week? I said the law of attraction, similar point, the way to change, the way to manifest something new is not primarily, I'm not saying at all, is not primarily about feeling good. What's the major driver I said behind the law of attraction?
Emotions?
No. Tension.
Oh, tension.
Yeah, the major driver is tension.
Yeah.
It's like tension like on a iron wire string.
Exactly. Tension is that driver. Okay, because here's the thing. So, as long as you feel safe, you'll never change. How many people have smoked for decades and it feels good to them? Right? They might in one part of their mind say, I should probably stop. But they keep going on and on and on and on, and it feels pretty good. According to what most people would say, okay, it feels good, and they kind of have the desire that maybe they should stop, so they'll stop. No, they won't. Right?
No, they have to decide that on a deep level.
Right. Because it feels safe to smoke, and your body will do what feels safe. Okay? So it's feeling safe is what defines your reality. If it feels safer to smoke than to not smoke, you're going to smoke. If it feels safer to, drink alcohol than not to, you're going to drink alcohol. If it feels safer to spend that money that you probably shouldn't spend, you're going to spend it.
We used to do that.
Yeah. You're going to spend it. Okay? That's what it is. It's not about feeling good, it's about feeling safe. Okay. So, the question is, how do you change it? Because obviously, we don't want to just say, you're doomed to be wherever you are.
No.
Or do we? No, just kidding.
You're horrible.
I am pretty horrible. So, how do you change it? How do you change where you feel safe? For this, I want to use a metaphor. I want you to imagine a pendulum. A pendulum is a perfect metaphor for this homeostasis point. Okay? This point of homeostasis. Because a pendulum has a point where it is still, where it doesn't move, right? It has that point where it's still. And as long as it's there, it'll stay there forever. It'll stay there forever. If you move it to one direction, it's going to seek to return to the center, right? It'll swing too far to the other side at first, and then it'll swing to the other side, and then it'll swing to the other side. But it'll be less and less and less until it stops in the center, right?
Yeah.
So that's like homeostasis. Because, if you try to change something, you're moving that pendulum, right? And all you're doing is swinging it to the side. And once you let go, then it's going to swing to the other side. You get money through the lottery or something, or through windfall, and then you spend it all. Ooh, the pendulum's on the other side. And then maybe you get some more money, and then you spend it all. And just, eventually you're going to be right back in the middle. That's the pendulum. Okay? So the question isn't, how to change that, you're not trying to move the pendulum to one side or the other, right? Because trying to swing it to one side or the other will just cause it to swing the other way. You're going to get backlash from that. It's just going to go against you. Because the more off-center you go, the more resistance there is from the pendulum, right? If you have a really big arc, it's going to swing way the other way. So you don't want that. Again, people will try to do this. People will, let's say losing weight. They'll go on this really strict diet regime, and they'll lose a whole ton of weight, and it's great, and then they gain back even more. They get it all back plus some, right? And I've certainly done that, right? Or if you try to smoke, you try to quit smoking, and
try to smoke.
Okay. If you are a smoker, sorry, if you're a smoker, you try to quit smoking, and you're really strict about it. You just try to do it cold turkey or something. And then eventually you just give in, and maybe you start doing it more than before because it's like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so great, right? And I'm not a smoker, so I wouldn't know. But my mother tried to quit for years. Okay,
she finally did.
Well, sort of. Now she's on that vapor stuff. But so that's trying to move too far in one direction is just going to create a swing back in the other direction. It's the pendulum effect. So you don't want that. So the question isn't, okay, how can I get this pendulum to move over to the left a little bit or a lot? Right? Because it's just going to swing back the other way when you're not looking, when you're not holding anymore, when you've let go, when your guard is down, it's going to go the other way. So that's not the question. You have to move its center point. You have to move its point of stillness. Right?
Right.
Makes sense? Christine gets it.
I like that.
So you have to take the pendulum and move the point of stillness itself.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to move where the center is. And then when it swings, it's going to be, above where you were before, so it's all good. Right? So
a portable pendulum. No.
A portable pendulum. Well, they're all portable. I mean, if you have a non-portable pendulum, that's something else. That's some pendulum.
I didn't mean it like that. Never mind.
It's a dangerous pendulum to use. Yes or no answers. Well, the building was flattened on the right side, so it was a yes.
I just embarrassed myself. Oh well.
It's all right. A non-portable pendulum.
Well, the point is portable. Like the point of center. I don't know.
Sure.
But you're just changing that center point, that still point.
Right.
Yeah.
You're changing where the still point is. That's what you have to do. So translating this back into our goals, if you're making $1,500 a month right now, it's not about how can I make $2,000 this month, right? That may seem to be the issue. But if you do that, you'll get it, and the next month you're right back down, and you've spent the extra, right? You've bought something new that you didn't really need, or a large bill came through that you weren't expecting. Something happens. We all had this. All of us who work on money issues, we've all had this, right? You have that windfall, you have that extra, and then it gets just spent on who the heck knows what. Okay. So that's not the question. That's just the pendulum. You swung it, $500 up, and now it's going to go the other way. It might not be exactly $500 down, but it's going to be swinging the other direction.
Something different, yeah.
So that you return to your point of homeostasis, your still point. Okay? So the question is not how to swing it in one direction, because you can't maintain that forever. The question is how to make, let's say, $2,000 a month be your still point, be your point of homeostasis.
I love it.
How do you make that your new normal?
Mm-hmm.
Your new, safety. You feel safe not when you make $1,500 anymore, but when you make $2,000. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's the question. So again, you are moving the still point. You're moving that point of homeostasis to something else. Relationships again. If you're single, the question isn't, how can I meet a whole bunch of people and that kind of stuff. The question is, how can I be more comfortable in a relationship? How can that be my new normal? How can that feel safer to me than to be alone and single? And the solution isn't desperation, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you have to raise your comfort zone so that it's higher than where you were. Because if you move that comfort zone, then your subconscious mind will do the rest.
So it's basically using the tension to go up there, right?
Right. That's exactly it. So I want you to imagine a second. I'm going to try to describe a visual without visuals. If you have the pendulum. I'm literally miming this, so just imagine that. If you have X-ray vision and you can see all the way into Olean, New York, that's what I'm doing currently. So if you take the end of the pendulum, that you hold in your hand, right, and it's still, and in the other end, you keep that where it is. Okay, so the bottom end of it, where like the crystal is or whatever the end is, right? If you hold that and you move the top, what happens when you let go of the bottom?
It swings.
It swings. And where is it going to mean its new point?
In the middle?
Right, in the new location.
Yes, so, in the new location. If you
what I'm trying to describe is, if you hold it in its current position, but you move the part you're holding up top,
yep.
When it swings, it's going to move. It's going to return to, a new location. Because that's its new still point. Okay?
Yes.
So here's what I'm trying to say. Because when you moved it, it created tension. It can't maintain that anymore. Now, if you tried to move the bottom first, if you tried to move, let's say, the manifestation first, before you moved the comfort zone, then it's just going to swing back. Right? But if you move the comfort zone first, if you move the still point first, then it will recalibrate to that new location. Okay. So translating that.
Right.
It was good in my head.
I got you.
Good. Okay. I don't know if anyone else did. But
you just want to basically move it, the top part first, like your subconscious and
exactly.
Mentally.
So if you imagine the top part being your subconscious mind and the bottom part being what's out there in reality, you're moving the top and the bottom follows. But if you try to move the bottom first, even through law of attraction, but you don't change the comfort zone, it's just going to come right back. Okay? Mm-hmm. Cool.
So you swing it from the top, from what you hold on to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what you move. All right. So basically, if, let's say, 1500 is my still point, that's my point of homeostasis, I don't try to manifest right away, let's say 2000. It's not that I'm trying to manifest that. I mean, it looks like that, yes. But it's not that I'm going to visualize this, I'm going to feel good about it, blah, blah, blah. No. I'm going to make $2,000 my new point of homeostasis. That's where I feel safe now. And then when I let go of that, and I'm still at 1500, now there's that gap. And guess what the subconscious does when there's a gap? It fills it in.
It finds a way to fill it in.
It finds a way to fill it in. That's that structural tension, that creative tension that we've talked about since like last October or something. If you change the vision of what you want, if you change that point of comfort, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe until I'm at this new point. Then you let go, and then your subconscious mind says, oh, now I have to swing over here to feel safe. Okay, done.
Yeah.
Right? Simple.
So you
just have to understand the mechanics of it. Right. That's what it is.
So you're saying that when you do it, you've had to move your subconscious first. That would be you'd want to think about. So you would actually want to, when you're in meditation with it, you actually want to imagine it and have it feel normal. Imagine all things you do with it.
That's right. You want to, what I like to call it, You want to create a new normal. Create a new normal. Don't create a new exciting. Guess what? Exciting is that pendulum on the upswing, right?
That's like just luck. Yeah.
Exciting is the pendulum moving up.
Right.
Okay? Guess what? Then it has to move down again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In the middle, it doesn't feel exciting. In the middle, it feels normal. It feels ordinary. It feels safe. Okay? You're not creating a new exciting. Yes, initially it'll be exciting, but that's not your goal. When they say to feel excited about your desire, no. Maybe at first, but no. You want to feel normal about your desire. You want to create a new normal. You want to make it so that when you look at your desire, say, oh, that's easy. That's what life should be like.
You almost
not in a desperate way, but in a, of course, sort of way. And then you look at your current reality as, why aren't I there yet? Just, again, not desperate, but okay, that's normal, but this is where I am now. Okay.
You almost want to glide into it.
You want to glide into it. So it's just like what Robert Fritz says, with creative tension. The key is the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Now, law of attraction people will try to close that gap, because when there's the gap, it feels uncomfortable. You want it to feel uncomfortable. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you're going to stay where you are. If it feels comfortable, your subconscious says, oh, cool, we can just stay here. I'm good. Everything's cool. If it feels uncomfortable, your subconscious mind says, I don't want this. I want it where it feels comfortable. Okay? So, I've said this before. You want that gap. You don't want to drop your vision. You don't want to pretend, like you don't really want it. That's kind of shutting down your goal. You don't want that. And you don't want to sugarcoat where you are. You don't want to say, I'm really abundant already. No. Yes, when you're visualizing and you're journaling and stuff, sure. But when you return it to everyday life, return it to everyday life. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't want
to... When you're visualizing.
When you're visualizing, yes. Fine.
You definitely want to
act
do it.
As if, feel
everyday
as if.
Life, do your thing.
When you return to everyday life, you don't sugarcoat it. You don't lie to yourself.
Absolutely
about
not.
Where you are. People will do this. People will try to act as if all the time. Oh, yeah, I'm a millionaire. Oh,
No, you're not.
No, you're not. And embrace that. No, you're not. Because if your subconscious mind thinks you are, well, why would it move? Okay. So, tension is the driver. Because when you let go of that pendulum and it has a new still point, it has to swing back to that new still point. Okay? So tension is what makes it move. Tension is what brings it back to the center.
But an interesting thing that you point out is a lot of people, they do say live act like you're a millionaire, feel like you're a millionaire all day, live like you're a millionaire. Right. And I've always thought, I'm just like, I always thought it was a bad idea. Sound like kind of not the way to go for me. Granted, doing it during meditation or whatever, love it, when you're visualizing and trying to feel it. Feel like you're a millionaire during the meditation process.
Exactly, right. It's not something you do all day. It's just something you do some of the time. Yes, during that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that you're visualizing. Yes. Feel like a millionaire. Feel like abundant. Feel like you're rich. Fine.
And then you journal, when you're journaling, you can even imagine giving away the money.
Yeah, when I journal, I completely enter that space where I'm totally that person. I am, I'm recounting, stories of things that haven't happened yet because they're in my visualization.
Or you can, you can imagine giving money away to people or whatever you want to do.
Right.
But that will really get you in trouble throughout the rest of, most of the rest of the day.
Right.
You will. That is not a good way to go about that. You allow the universe to tell you when you make certain moves. Like I allowed the universe to tell me when it was time to, I think it was Archangel Raphael, when it was time to just start taking Uber to and from work.
Yep.
And I just was like, okay, you work the transportation out. And it has. So
that it's such a confusing point for people. I don't know why, but there's such misinformation. And I know I beat the dead horse here, but it just has to be said over and over and over and over and over again. It just does, because people act as if all the time, and that's so unhealthy. You can't.
You have to be in reality.
You have to realize who you are and where you are.
And I think a big one is not to be ashamed of where you are, because
exactly.
I work with someone that's how she is, and I keep telling her it's just where you are. It's okay. You can change it.
Even the shame part is okay if you just accept the shame. Right. Like, I'll admit, I've got some of that. Like, I should be farther, but I mean, I just understood.
Well, we all get that,
what?
Sure.
You know what? It is. I'm here, right now.
Right.
Shame and all, so it does not matter.
I do too, but
you simply execute whatever's in front of you.
Right. So that brings up another good point. Just because you don't like where you are doesn't mean you don't feel safe there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because it might feel familiar, but you could still hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the job that you hate that you can't quit because you feel too unsafe if you do. It feels scary.
Right.
So people I'm not telling you to be unhappy with where you are. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to create a new normal. Create a new normal. Okay? Accept where you are, yes. But create a new normal so that this is not normal anymore. This is, below where you want to be. And people are afraid to do that because they're like, oh, I have to, totally accept everything and just, be okay with what is. Well, yes, to some extent, but you need to create a new normal or it won't move. This is it's a very fine line.
This is almost where the pivot comes in. Yeah, you accept where you are, you can do it, and then immediately start changing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, you have to create a new normal and let your subconscious mind do the rest. And it's really so easy once you do that. Because the subconscious mind will do that. As long as you feel that new normal, that's what the subconscious mind does. It fills in the rest. Mm-hmm. It swings the pendulum back to the still point. That's what it does. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what it does. So you have to work on, just changing that point of homeostasis, changing what feels safe to you, what feels familiar to you, creating a new normal. If $1,500 feels normal right now, but you want more, you have to make, let's say, $2,000 a month normal. If you don't, you won't move. If you feel excited about $2,000, it's going to leave again. How many people complain about they get their manifestation and then it leaves?
Oh, yeah.
And then they lose it. Oh, I had it, and then I lost it. Well, because you got too excited. What did I say a few weeks ago about when you get too excited about a manifestation? Remember that, Justin? We had this whole debate
can slip
about
through
it.
Your fingers.
Right. Get too excited about it, sort of. Right? I'm not saying it can't happen. We had this whole debate in the comments about that.
Oh, I don't remember. I didn't know.
You don't check the comments. But
I remember this debate.
We had this whole debate in the comments of, oh, well, I felt excited before and I've gotten stuff. Well, people define excitement as all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
But if you get too excited, if you feel like this is above normal, this is literally extraordinary, then it won't last. Unless you do a really quick catch-up subconsciously.
I mean, you can enjoy it.
Yeah. You can enjoy it. You can feel good about it.
Feel good. You can even feel great about it.
Right.
But what you don't want is like this nervous, excited energy. I would tell people, if you're gonna if you really feel like you have to do that, do it at the very beginning of your manifestation, and get that out of the way.
That's where it is. Yeah,
and then you get it out of the way. That'll actually help drive it. And
right.
But then the rest of it is like maintenance.
Well, that's like we talked about in last week's The Unseen World podcast about, the collective planets, Jupiter versus Saturn. Jupiter's that nice, inspiring, passionate, expansive energy where we get real excited about it. It's like, yay! But then you have to bring it down to Earth. You have to ground it. That's Saturn for you.
Saturn is hard working, man.
And we don't want to do that part. It's like, I just want to stay the inspiring. Just want to feel this good all the time and just be excited all the time. You can't. You have to make it feel normal. I'm not saying you're never going to feel excited, but I'm saying those emotions come and go. And your goal is going to feel normal. Think about a week after your goal, 2 weeks after your goal, a month after your goal. You think you're going to be just as excited about it? No. I promise you, you won't.
You'll have a deep joy, maybe. You'll have a deep joy.
Sure.
And it's going to feel like a full-body joy. It actually feels better than excitement. It's
a deeper, more spiritual thing. But it's not going to be excitement. It's not going to be this, ecstatic kind of bouncing off the walls sort of excitement where you're just so excited about it and you can't believe you got it. And that'll be there at first and then it dies away because now it's normal. If you get that big mansion or that beach house, or something like that, and that's your dream house, first day you wake up there, I'm sure you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. If you live there a year, this is awesome. But, I'm not over the moon about it.
Well, it's just like the people who buy hot tubs and they think they're going to use them and they use them for the first 2 days and they're like, oh, whatever, it's here.
That was the most random example ever.
It's
true.
It's true. But man, that was random. But yes.
That's Christine. She'll come up with this. Where did that even come from?
No, because I know people like that.
No, that's a great example.
Oh, that's great. It's just really random.
Pick on me.
It's so easy though. So, but no, that's totally true though. So, you have to create a new normal. You have to create a new sense of normal, a new point of homeostasis, right? That's what you have to do. And once you create that new normal, your subconscious mind will fill in the gap. Has to fill in the gap. Because where you are just isn't normal anymore. It's just not familiar anymore. Now it's like, oh, now I want to be over there. Okay? So it has to do that. That is what this stuff is all about. So you have your comfort zone. Whatever area of life it is, it can apply to anything, right? Whether it's finances or relationships or health or, whatever. You have your comfort zone. Feeling good might swing the pendulum. It will swing the pendulum, okay? This is why people get like these short-term successes. Oh, I got this huge thing, and then...
But you've got to ground it.
Right. Okay, feeling good, fine. But that's just part of the equation. That actually doesn't do the main part of the work. Okay? The main part of the work is getting that goal to the point of feeling normal. Yes, like Justin said, first few days you're going to feel amazing about the goal when you think about it, when you visualize it. I'm not asking you to shut that down. Let that energy flow just like anything else. But once the energy flows, what's going to be left is that's normal. And that's what you want. Right? So.
And also when you say you're at goal, if you talk about it, it needs to feel normal.
Exactly.
If you say, I make, let's use a hot tub. You say, and I got a hot tub in my house or at my house. It needs to feel normal. It shouldn't evoke a reaction. Now I guess it evokes the, man, it's really nice to have a hot tub reaction. I mean, it feels good to have a hot tub, but it doesn't evoke like a excitement. In fact, on the ripple, on the tension wire, it shouldn't really even move it. It should just be normal. Now, it's going to move it at first before you get it.
Exactly, right.
Like, oh, man, we're getting a hot tub. You're going to... And that's fine. And then you manifest it a little bit, and you kind of relax and let the excitement go.
Yep.
And a month or two later, when you think about it, it needs to be like, man, I just got a hot tub. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's, yeah. So that's what it's all about. You set a new comfort zone, set a new point of homeostasis. We've called it like a million names today, but it's just to point out, what this is, create a new normal, whatever. That's what you're doing. And then you let it go, and your subconscious will feel that tension. This is creative tension that I've talked about over and over and over again. And fill in that gap. Okay? That's what you have to do. It's about the tension of this not being over there where you want to be, where you feel familiar and safe and normal. Okay? When over there is normal and not over here, that will create tension, and your subconscious mind will find the fastest, most efficient way of getting over there. It has to. But as long as over there feels just so extraordinary and exciting and oh my gosh, that'll be amazing. No. That's just the pendulum swinging. You might forcibly manifest it, but it won't last, unless you really catch up and really, really quickly make it normal again. Like these lottery winners who, they get it, but then 6 months or a year later, it's all gone. It's like, okay, what's the change in lifestyle again? None. Maybe you have a few nicer things and whatnot, but now you're back to where you were. Okay. What was the point? So that's what happens. That's the pendulum swinging. You don't want that. You want to change your point of homeostasis. You want to change what feels normal to you. All right, so I think that's it. That was great discussion. And again, I know I really hammered in these points today, but it's just, I think it's frustrating sometimes. I'm on a lot of like law of attraction forums, and I see a lot of people talking about the law of attraction. You wouldn't believe the misconceptions I see about it, either from skeptics who are making fun of it, or from people who want to succeed at it but aren't. And you look at it, it's like, well, I can see why. Or, whatever. People who are trying to teach it. And it's like, okay, I just want to get this across. Like I said, it's not about feeling good. It's about feeling safe. Right? That's what defines where reality will flow. Mm-hmm. Where universal energy will flow. Where it feels safe, where it feels familiar, where it feels normal. Where it feels, at center. That's where energy will flow. That's where reality will go. So that's how all this works. I hope that's clear. Try to give a lot of metaphors and a lot of examples. It's complicated stuff. I know it's a lot different. It's not a little different. It's a lot different. Mm-hmm. But I hope that clarifies things. But I enjoyed this discussion immensely. I thought it was really good, and I wanted to do this one soon. So I thought this was a great place to have this discussion. I always love these podcasts because I feel like we can go a lot deeper than with a blog post, because we can kind of go on not as long as we want to. I mean, we can't go like 3 hours or something. But
you would love to.
Oh, I would do it. I would sit here for 8 hours and talk, but I think people get bored eventually. So that's how it is. So I hope everyone enjoyed this topic. And of course, if you would like to ask questions about this or just read the transcript or leave a comment, you can head over to cocreationcoaching.org/create015. And if you would like to rate or review or subscribe to us on iTunes, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create-iTunes, and it will direct you there. So again, I hope that everyone enjoyed this, and I hope that you have a great weekend. I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
I'm Justin Williams.
Anything is possible.